MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football, breaking down week 3 previews. We've got Michigan State at home against Arizona State. We got Kyle Thele on the line from the Only Colors, the SB Nation platform for Michigan State football. Kyle, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. Mark, how are you?
I am doing just fine. Appreciate you stopping by to help break down Sparty. 2-0 out of the gate. The Tulsa win was not necessarily impressive on the offensive side. The defense was up to its standard that we've come to expect. Last week, though, the big breakout with 51 points on the board. Is that something that you think that there was an actual breakthrough made by the offense, or more of the opponent factoring in there?
It was a little bit of both. Western Michigan runs a similar defense to what Michigan State runs stylistically, so there was a familiarity there with the offensive line that they were able to block. They were able to set the offense up in a way that they struggled with in the week previous. But they also figured a lot of stuff out. I think they found their running back in Eli Collins. That's no small thing for this Michigan State offense. He is a guy who can carry the lead running back role. He's got enough breakaway speed. He's got enough run through you that he should be a guy fans can look forward to for the next few years.
Yeah, so that's a good point right there, because the Michigan State that Mark D'Antonio built, that finished top 5 in the nation, won Rose Bowls, Cotton Bowls, went to college football playoffs, and maybe it was that college football playoff team that was the start of the transition to more of a passing offense. Obviously, Connor Cook was the guy. But those Michigan State teams, Le'Veon Bell being the poster child, were just dominant ground attacks, offensive lines that were dominant, running backs typically 2 or 3, but Le'Veon Bell obviously being, again, the guy during his particular time. But really, the Michigan State, even though people think of old school football Michigan State, the last 3 or 4 years, the ground game has been pretty pathetic, like bottom 5 to 10 in the nation last year. And it was kind of getting off to that start this year. And I don't necessarily know that I thought Connor Hayward was a number 1 type running back for a program like a Michigan State, but they find this kid Collins last week.
Yeah, and I don't think they thought Hayward was really going to be that guy anyways. The last few years, they've dealt with a few different issues. They've had a lot of injuries last year. The year before that, they started to get a little bit of a groove, but even then, injuries and turnovers were a big issue. They think they have their guy this year, and the biggest part of a Mark D'Antonio offense isn't just a running game, it's the balance, and you need a quarterback who can not make mistakes, not give the ball back, and keep you in position, and then let that running game just slowly bludgeon the defense. And they think Collins isn't going to be a guy like Le'Veon Bell was a few years ago, who every single down he's going to be on the field and going to be a threat. But he's going to be a guy who's going to be slowly taking more and more snaps. They're still going to be running out at least 3 different guys over the next few weeks. But they at least hope that he is the next NFL running back.
Michigan State's at 2-0. They dive back into play against a Power 5 opponent this week, taking on Arizona State in East Lansing. We got Kyle Thele on the line from the Only Colors SB Nation platform for Michigan State. So please join him and the rest of the staff there in setting you up for week 3 at Michigan State. So Arizona State obviously won the game in a bit of an upset. Last year when Michigan State was returning all those starters and looking for a big season last year, go out to ASU, losing the closing seconds on a field goal. Arizona State turned over their roster quite a bit, especially their playmakers on offense, the quarterback position. I got to say that I'm a bit surprised, however, that Michigan State's a 15-point favorite in this game. I don't know if that's caught you by surprise as well.
Yeah, that's a big number. I think that scares a lot of people that I've been talking with. It's a big number in the sense that you're playing a Power 5 team. They are still 2-0. They haven't played quite the same caliber of teams, but that it should be a 2-score spread, I think. 15 points is a lot. Winning by more than 2 touchdowns against a Power 5 team is difficult to do.
Absolutely. Talking Michigan State football, Michigan State off to a 2-0 start and taking on Arizona State, also 2-0, but rather unimpressive against the likes of Kent State. And trying to think, they played like an FCS last weekend and only
Yeah,
scored like
Sacramento
19
State, I
points.
want to say.
There you go, Sacramento State, 19-7 in that game. But Brian Lewerke, obviously a fine sophomore season. Much was made of the shoulder issues and his drop off in play last year. Again, he struggled along with the offensive line and the rest of the offense in week 1 against Tulsa. Came back to play a nice game last weekend. Was his ability to maintain his starting position more to do with him, or maybe Rocky Lombardi not quite prepared and able to step up? Because at one point it appeared as though Lombardi might be able to challenge Lewerke for the starting spot.
Mark D'Antonio is always going to default to the more experienced, the elder statesman, especially when it comes to quarterback. A lot of people forget that Connor Cook, in the year that they ended up winning the Big Ten, didn't start the season as the unanimous starting quarterback. He was still battling for that spot through the first 3 games. So he's even when it's as clear as that situation was, D'Antonio's going to give the more experienced guy a lot more opportunities. In this case, I think Lewerke is still best situated to take this team where it needs to go. He is more well-rounded in the offense. He reads defenses to a much higher caliber than Lombardi does. I thought something that was interesting this past week was that Lombardi didn't see the field at all. And it wasn't that there was a quarterback controversy or anything through the first week, but they were still bringing Lombardi on in certain running packages and certain running situations. This past week, they didn't feel the need to do that at all. It was Lewerke's from start to finish. And I think that just shows that's his health. That's his finally kind of returning to where he was at the start of last season.
Got Kyle Thele. I apologize. Got Kyle Thele on the line talking Michigan State football as Sparty prepares for Arizona State. You can catch Kyle and the rest of the crew there at The Only Colors on SB Nation. Michigan State at 2-0. And we'll talk some defense. That's can bring a smile to your face. I'm sure that the defense is ridiculously good, especially against the run. Was last year through 2 games, is this year, posting again just incomprehensible kind of numbers against the rush. I know you lost a couple players on the back end, but pretty much the front 7 is back for the most part. Kenny Willekes and Joe Bachie, of course, the headliners. Are we going to see a similar performance throughout the season on defense as we did last year?
Yeah, there's no reason not to think that the defense can't be at least as dominant as they were last year. Like you said, the front 7 is largely still intact and if not improved from the previous year. The guys they lost in the secondary, there's a lot of confidence in the people replacing them. They have at least one more corner currently on the team who should be in the NFL. It sounds weird to say that an offense will need to attack them through the air because of the talent they have in the secondary, but there's no way you can run with any sort of continued success against this defense.
Michigan State, Arizona State, one of the better games of the week across the country. Of course, the Sun Devils won it out west last year. Michigan State at 2-0. We got Kyle Thele on the line from The Only Colors. As you see on the bottom of the screen, my week 3 predictions available. Just grab the link in the description section below where it says Voice of College Football Community. Also, we have a partnership with betnow.eu. Also, St. Jude's Hospital going to a good cause. A number of YouTubers teaming up for some cancer research, and you'll see the hashtag Sam Strong in the description section below as well. And what you get there is double your money. So you get to start in front of the chain. So whatever you put into your account, use the promo code MRTVCFB, MRTVCFB, and they double your money right out of the gate. Michigan State obviously plays in possibly the best division in college football. It's been a thought of mine in watching this team play. I don't watch all 12 games like you do, but 6 or 7 or 8, something in that range. That the heyday was obviously what D'Antonio built starting in about 2010 through 15. That they were just about as good as almost anybody in the nation. Maybe they've settled into kind of an 8-4 type program. right now. Do you have any thoughts about them returning to that kind of status, or whether they have maybe found, because of some of their recruiting challenges, maybe a 3 or 4 loss type program status?
Nothing's really changed as far as who they recruit, who they bring in. If anything, they're getting more four-star guys than they were during the early stages of D'Antonio's stretch. I think what's changed is D'Antonio, the way his program is run, there's a lot of ups and downs. Since he started, there's been years where they take a couple steps back because they're younger, because they're more inexperienced. And a few years ago, you saw that when all of their key players left for either the NFL or graduated. In 2017, they were starting. In 2016, they were starting really bare. They had nowhere to go. They had no one to work with. 2017, you saw that there was some maturity, there was some growth in those players, and you saw a big step forward. Last year, they dealt with injuries and things. They took a half step backwards. But I think this is just how D'Antonio's program is run. I think you will see an improvement this year. You'll probably see an improvement next year, and then there might be another step back. He's very reliant on seniors. He's reliant on people understanding the system and improving with each year that they're at Michigan State.
Talking Michigan State football, we got Kyle Thele on the line from The Only Colors. It's the SB Nation platform for Michigan State athletics, and of course football front and center going into week 3 against Arizona State. Again, we mentioned the turnover in personnel there at Arizona State, especially the playmakers on the outside. N'Keal Harry, they lose the quarterback. They go from a senior in Manny Wilkins, starting a true freshman now. Eno Benjamin, still one of the best backs in the Pac-12. If you had a chance to look at Arizona State, and then also looking back to last season, your concerns about what they pose this Saturday?
I think despite the turnover that they've had, stylistically, it will probably look similar to last year. Arizona State, for all the talent they have, they're not going to be able to run against Michigan State. No one in the country has been able to consistently run against Michigan State over the last 2 years. I don't see that changing this week, and I don't see a true freshman being able to have a whole lot of success going through the air, even if they try and force the issue, hoping to catch the defense at a relatively soft spot. Offensively, you're dealing with a similar defense that they saw week 1 against Tulsa, so there definitely needs to be some growth up front. You need to see some zone read improvement from Lewerke. So it's not quite as rosy as it would appear after last week's game. I do think, though, that those improvements were real. Those steps forward were real. The passing game has more options, has deeper options this year than they did after a few games last year. So I think the offense is legit. If they can score 24, 25 points, they should be okay.
Yeah, it's got to be concerning for Arizona State coming into this game that, again, Jaden Daniels, a prized freshman who could have gone just about anywhere in the country. He's that good. He's not been bad. He's completing almost 63% of his passes, hasn't thrown an interception, but if you really grind down the numbers, they've been extremely conservative with him. He's not going deep. He's not stretching the field. They're not getting chunk plays. He's been sacked 6 times, which isn't horrible, but they've played Sacramento State and Kent State, so maybe it is horrible. Eno Benjamin, we know how good he is, so it's not an issue with him. 3.7 yards per carry. So this is, to me, speaking, an offensive line issue for Arizona State, and they're not facing the right team to have offensive line issues with.
Well, and it's not only just the offensive line. There's going to be more people than they know what to do with. The Michigan State loves stacking the box. They love bringing extra pressure. They love making a quarterback decide to drop back and pass. And even in passing situations, they don't necessarily go to a dime coverage all that often. They have no problem leaving cornerbacks, leaving safeties out on islands and saying, especially at a college level, if you're good enough to beat us through the air, then go for it. Arizona State might be, in a few years, they might be an elite passing program. They're not right now. And there's no reason to think that a true freshman is going to be able to pick apart that defense as quickly as he needs to.
Yeah, the game would seem to reek of like 23-10 to me. We got Kyle Thele on the line from The Only Colors on SB Nation. So when we go bigger picture, I alluded to the division, of course, the culprits: Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, Maryland. Scored a million points the first 2 weeks, and it's got to open some eyes when it comes against a decent Syracuse program. So, what are your hopes, and what's the fan base's hopes of competing seriously for the division championship?
This year is about the same as it's been the last few years. I think they want the fan base and the program as a whole expects to win every week. Realistically, if they can win one or two of the games between Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State, I think that makes for probably a pretty good year. Ohio State looked amazing the last few weeks. What they did against Cincinnati, that should wake up everyone across the country, not just in the Big Ten. Michigan has had some issues, and they've had some issues in ways that can be susceptible to a loss against a team like Michigan State. Penn State's still a little bit of an unknown. Maryland, like you mentioned, they put up some crazy numbers. How sustainable that is, I think, is yet to be determined. But Michigan State sees itself as a program and realistically should be a team that's competing for that spot in Indianapolis down the stretch. They might need a little bit of help. They might need someone to fall off or lose a game that they shouldn't against a team like an Indiana. But there's no reason why in the final few weeks they can't be competing for that spot in Indianapolis in the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah, absolutely. Michigan State hosting Arizona State, hoping to enact some revenge for last year's upset loss out in Tempe. Kyle, we appreciate you stopping by, getting us set for the game on Saturday night.
All right. Thanks for having me.